You have the conversation, and this is what he says. And this is point number one. You can worship your God, but worship Him in the land. And there are many millions of people that's as far as Satan had to go. Worship Him in the land. In other words, you can believe in God. And how many people in America believe in God? There are many that believe in God. But you know, I'm going to worship God in the land. I'm not going to church. I'm not going to get involved with any Bible group. I'm not going to read my Bible on a regular basis. And if I pray, I may pray every now and then. But I can worship God in the land. And so that is the idea that many have taken to heart. And so they do not get involved. They do not worship. It is the idea that I'm a spiritual person. But this religious stuff, it kind of turns me off. And so I'm just going to stay at home and I'm going to do my thing and I'll be fine with God. First and foremost, the word church itself means the called out. The word ecclesia means the called out. Well, what does it mean? Called out from what? Called out from the world. And why is the church important? Why should we meet? The writer of Hebrews says in 10:25 says, forsake not the assembling of yourselves together as the manner of some is. Well, why is it so important? Because it is in church. It is when we meet that we fellowship with one another, that we pray with one another, that we teach one another, that we exhort one another, that all sorts of things happen within the confines of the assembly, of the ecclesia, that does not happen anywhere else. And I'll tell you another reason why Satan does not want you worshiping. 1 Peter 5:8 says, be sober, be vigilant, for your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may destroy. And you can say what you want to, whether you're talking about it on the spiritual level or the physical level. There is something about the herd instinct. When you are part of the church, when you are part of a group, when you are part of people that worship God, you are not out by yourself alone. And if you've ever seen these National Geographic shows about how lions or tigers or leopards or whatever they do, how do they attack? They do not attack the herd. They try to get the straggler. They try to go after the one that is out by themselves. And they'll get the old and they will get the young. And so, even in the physical world, predators know that if I can find one out by themselves, they are much easier prey. And so, when you decide that, oh, I'm a spiritual person, I believe in God, but I'm not going to have anything to do with religion. I'm not going to take part in this. I'm not going to have Bible studies. I'm not going to find me a group of Christian friends. You have succumbed to point number one, and Satan doesn't have to go any further with you. But Moses said, we can't sacrifice in the land. He said, we sacrifice animals. And guess what? You people worship animals. And when you see us sacrificing the gods that you worship, you will attack us. Do you understand that's exactly what is going on in America today? It is hard to worship in the land. I don't know about you. When you go out to eat, do you take time to say a blessing over your food? Because you see, when you try to take the sacred into the secular, people look at you funny. What are you doing? And maybe you say prayer when you sit at a restaurant, but most people don't. And if you don't think I'm right, try this. Next time you go into a restaurant, stand up and say, excuse me, people, I would like to have a prayer for everybody. Would you stop what you're doing and let's have a prayer and see what happens? They used to have prayers at football games, but not so much anymore. Maybe they do some places, but not so much anymore, because when you try to take the sacred to the secular, they don't want to mess with that. They don't want to deal with that. Let's don't do prayers. We don't want to bring religion into this stuff. And so wherever it may be, same can be said of public schools, same can be said of almost everywhere. When you try to take the sacred into a secular setting, they don't like that. Don't do that. It's okay to do it to church, but don't bring that over here with us. And so Moses understood what we need to understand is that when you try to take the secular and you try to live a sacred life in a secular setting, it just doesn't work out all that well. You have to have a place that is sacred, a place where you can go and meet with fellow believers, where you can talk and exhort and pray and sing and do things that only Christians do. And when you alienate yourself from that, you're headed for trouble.